The resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth is an absolutely central New Testament doctrine. In fact, it's spoken of everywhere as grounding anything that is theologically important to the Christian. Now, this, of course, is a rather unusual event because you don't see resurrections happening every day, and it is easy for people to dismiss it as not reliable. And of course, it being so central, Paul himself said that if Jesus did not rise from the dead, then our faith is worthless, and we should be pitied if we are believing in a resurrection that didn't happen. So it's fair to ask what kind of evidences would be the kinds of things that we would draw on to give reason to believe that the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth actually took place. And there are three powerful evidences that are powerful in part because of the implications of the three taken as a whole, what best explains them. But it's also powerful because these are particular details or facts or evidences that virtually everybody in the historical realm acknowledges to be true. And I'm talking about, on balance, 95%, 50 to 95%, and I make that 75 to 95% of the biblical scholarship. That's probably a safer way to put it. If you're an historian dealing with these details and using the primary source historical documents, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Paul and Peter and the rest that wrote in the New Testament, all of these are documents from antiquity that are drawn on by historians, then these are the three things that you are pretty confident actually took place. First, that Jesus of Nazareth died on a Roman cross. I mean, there's lots of testimony to that. Nobody seems to take exception with that from antiquity, a number of sources outside of the biblical sources that say this. Second, after he was buried, the tomb that he had been laid in was found empty. His body wasn't there anymore. Now, this is important because, and reliable, because if there was this big hullabaloo about the resurrection of Christ, it would have been very easy to put it to bed immediately by just simply producing the body, but there was no body. Now, there are alternate explanations about where the body went, but just note the fact: no body. Dead body, no body. And third, a whole bunch of people experienced something that they thought was the resurrected Christ. And it's not just people that were within the original apostolic band, but people that were doubters, like James, the half-brother of Jesus, who wrote the Epistle of James. He was not a believer prior to the resurrection. And Saul of Tarsus, who was a vigorous persecutor of the church. So these are enemies. They are not inclined to believe in a resurrection, and even the disciples didn't understand there was to be a resurrection, even though it had been told them. They didn't figure it out. They were hiding. So the question is, given the dead Jesus, the missing body, and the testimony of all these people that they say was the resurrected Christ, which transformed them into people knocking their knees and hiding or persecuting Christians in the case of Saul, to being vibrant witnesses for Jesus Christ based on what they thought was the appearance of Christ, and most in fact, giving their life for that testimony. So, those are the facts of history. Now, what best explains it? And I'm just going to tell you right now, there's no alternate explanation that makes sense of those three broadly agreed on facts or details from that period that is going to be better than the simple claim of the apostles: he who was dead is alive.